Hello everyone, this is Wasey with Brazos River Air Conditioning, doing a little AC with Wasey video. This one is an update on the Samsung Hylex. We did a video this spring, encourage you to go check it out if you haven't seen it, but basically the Samsung Hylex is a unit that Samsung developed that is basically like their mini split condenser to go onto normal homes. It will go on to almost any normal indoor unit. We have these on mobile homes. We put them onto gas furnaces. We put them onto zone systems. We put them onto single speed motors, variable speed motors, etc., etc., etc. This setup that I put into my house is as basic of an indoor unit as you get. It is a single speed motor. It is just your standard 14 SEER air handler. So the cost of my install would be close to what the cost of a 15 SEER 2 would have been. And 15 SEER 2 is one step above the minimum. My system runs almost 20 SEER 2, which is a significant, about 50% more efficient system than your 14, 15 SEER 2. So there's a lot of value sitting there. If you have to replace your system anyways, this system will give you a much better value for your dollar. That being said, let's get into the savings. So last year I would typically set my thermostat at 75. At night I would set it at 78, 79 during the day because in the summer I'm gone from daylight till dark most of the time. I am typically not home during daylight. We're stupid busy most of the time during the summer. So I used to fluctuate my temperature because I knew I didn't want my unit running a ton in the heat of the day. So this year, because I put in the Hylex, I wanted to see what people's electric bill would be in a normal home. Most of our customers set their thermostats around 70, sometimes colder at night. So I set mine at 70. Oh, and it's important to note, I went from a 3.5 ton system on my house to a 3-ton Hylex, which doesn't quite reach the capacity of a 3.5 ton, but it's very close. So I technically downgraded by a 0.5 ton as well. So that's important to note. But anyways, basically I set it to where it would run more on a normal year. I decreased the size of it. I increased the efficiency. And then we were hit with a brutal summer. This summer, I have the average temps pulled up here. And this summer, in the time period that we are looking at, last year we had 1 month with an average high of over 90 degrees. From there on, the average high was 85 or below, and it decreased almost 5 degrees a month. This year, in the time period that we're looking at, our average high to start out with was 96, 97 degrees, somewhere in there. And then it did not decrease at 5 degrees a month. As a matter of fact, so the July billing period is the first billing period we're looking at. It's for June. From June to July, the high temperature this year, last year it decreased almost 3 degrees. This year it increased almost 5 degrees and got right above 100 for the average high in July. And then it stayed there for August. And then in September we got down around 96, about the peak of last summer. And then in October we were still at 90 degrees for an average high. So keep in mind, we are setting our thermostat lower. We decreased the size of the unit by a 0.5 ton. And we had about 4 months of what was the peak of last summer. We had about 4 months that were at that peak or above, whereas last year that was a singular month. My savings over the summer was about $304. Um, that doesn't sound like much a lot of the time, but I think given those factors, last year I probably, like, if we had had a year like last year as opposed to a year like this year that most of us had never seen, the savings would be higher. But I'm happy with the $300. Throughout the summer, to be honest, I would see the bills go out and I thought I was saving a little more than that. But I've got the numbers in front of me from my electric provider, so I can tell you it's $304. Now, the interesting thing is, and I think this is why this is a good time to do this video, is in the December billing cycle of last year, which is the November bill, what it ran in November, and the lows were about the same. The highs were actually higher this year, but the lows were about the same. Last year, that bill was $254. This year, that bill is $159, meaning that I saved almost $100 of that $300 in the last month with very similar temperatures to last year. And the reason that's important is because as we get into the heat cycle, these units will save you significantly more money than they do during the summer. Yes, you're saving during the summer. However, the amount of savings that you get over the winter will be significantly more for a couple of reasons. On a normal heat pump like I had on my house, when it goes into defrost, your heat strips kick on, and that's adding 30 to 60 to 90%, depending on how many heat strips you have. It's adding a significant amount of usage. Anytime you get down around 35 degrees, the amount of heat being produced out of that unit, on a normal heat pump, the air coming out is typically around 85 degrees. On my Hylex, I read it the other day, it's 103 degrees. Also a nice change. But anyways, normal heat pumps begin to lose heat capacity somewhere around freezing, depending on the efficiency of it, but somewhere around freezing, which means that it will occasionally kick in your heat strips to help it catch up faster, up in your power usage. And then when you get around 25, on a normal heat pump, you have to switch to emergency heat, otherwise it cannot keep up with the house because it can't produce enough heat. On the Hylex, or a variable speed compressor in general, but on the Hylex specifically, it's around 5 degrees where it starts to lose capacity. So we would have to be 5 degrees before it would feel the need to, hey, let's bump the heat strips and help us catch up type thing. And then the defrost cycle, which also kicks in the heat strips. On a normal unit, what happens is your fan motor inside continues running, and your outside unit kicks to air conditioning and shuts off the outdoor fan motor to thaw the unit out. And because it's an air conditioning, the inside air goes cold, and it kicks on the heat strips to help balance out that air so that you don't feel like air conditioning is running inside. On the Hylex unit, the way the defrost works is it kicks off both the indoor and outdoor fan motors and thaws out the outdoor unit by running essentially air conditioning, and then it kicks it back over to heat, but it warms up the indoor coil before it allows the indoor fan motor to come back on. That way you're only getting heat out of it. I have not noticed the defrost cycle that much on my unit. Like, I'm sure it's hit it a few times, but I've not noticed a change in temperature or it struggling to keep up or anything like that. So throughout the winter months, and we're going into my highest usage, over the last 2 years, the months of December, January, February, and March have been my highest by a long shot. And the January billing has been the highest, was the highest last year, second highest the year before, and then March swaps places with it over the 2 years. But I had a $159 bill for the December billing cycle, which is November. I would I would expect my bill to remain very similar. It might come up like at the peak of summer. My highest bill this summer was $201. So let's say it has to run as much as it did when it was averaging 105, 102 outside or whatever it was. If it runs that much, my bill will be $200. So say we jump up to that $200. My bill in January of last year was $434, which means even if my unit runs at its highest level as much as it did this summer when it was over 100-degree average high, I will save $220 throughout the next month. I expect that to continue for the next 3 months, which means I'll rack up almost $600 in savings over the next 3 months, bringing our yearly total close to, but not quite to, the $1,000. When I installed this at the end of May, beginning of June, my goal for the year was to get $1,000 in savings. I really think on a normal year I would have. This year it was a really hot, long year, and I'm still going to probably come within $100 of it. But if you're thinking about changing to a more efficient unit, now is the time to look at the Hylex. If you're used to your electric bill spiking throughout the winter, now is a very good time to look at the Hylex, because this unit will save you more money throughout this winter than it does throughout the entire summer next year. You'll probably see twice as much savings in the next 3 months as you would in the 6 months following. So keep that in mind. Like I said, not everyone's dollar amounts are going to work out the same. I've talked to several customers who installed these systems, and they have very similar stories. I haven't talked to anyone that had over a $200 bill this summer for air conditioning, as opposed to their normal $300-400 bills. I think that these units are saving a lot of money in the summer, but I expect them to save a whole lot more through the heat. And I really think there's a lot of people who will look at $300 over the summer or $700 over a year, $1,000 over a year as a low amount, I guess, because these systems will run, depending on the size, $7,000 to $10,000. If you change the whole system, we can put just the outdoor on if the indoor is 410A, which most indoors are these days, and that'll make it significantly cheaper. Let's say we're just doing the outdoor unit, and we don't have to do the indoor unit. You can get one of these installed for $500 to $7,500, depending on the size. So you have a 10-year warranty period, which means that it will be saving you money for at least the next 10 years. Hopefully they last 15 to 20, but at least the next 10 years. And so if you calculate that out, say it's only $700 a year. That's $7,000 over the next 10 years. If it gets 1,000 like I expect it to on a normal year, that's 10,000 over the life of the unit that it's saved you if it doesn't go a day past the warranty date. If it goes another 5 years, that's 15,000. These are real numbers. They work out really well on payback of the unit. A system the same size as mine, using the same equipment as mine, would run about $74, $75 to do the indoor and out. If you're saving $700 a month or $750 a month, you just paid for that unit just in utility savings. And on top of that, you have a much quieter unit. You have a smaller footprint of a unit that looks better on the side of your house. And you're basically upgrading every comfort feature. My house has never removed humidity as well as it did this year. Part of that was turning the thermostat down lower. I realized that. But because it's variable speed, It will adjust itself to make sure that it controls the humidity a little better, and it's overall just a lot better experience. I expected a lot out of these units when they came out. I thought I was setting some pretty lofty goals for them, and they've exceeded almost every one. So I guess it's a big A plus from us. If you're interested in looking at changing, call, have a conversation. I'll go through everything that I can with you. As always, I try to make sure everyone's informed as much as they can when purchasing something from us, as I don't want to work on your unit any more than you want me to over the next 10 years. If I didn't believe this was a really good unit, I wouldn't be pushing it. I want you to be as happy as you can be with it, and I want you to look back a year from now and say, I'm so glad that I caught that video and talked to Wacy about that unit. So, with that being said, thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you next time.